sorry, to justify myself, I would tell that I wrote it. I showed it at that time. I was a young man, so I showed it to my senior colleague. She checked it. She didn't tell anything, and then I crossed it out, like by myself. And the next day, she's coming up to me and telling, "Look, this phrase is so important that I'm taking it from you to insert it into his main speech."
Just drawing on your former career, you wrote Putin's second Victory Day speech in 2001, didn't you? And you told me last time there was an important change in the messaging at that time, because then you wrote that not every nation has a victory of this scale in his speech. And it was the first time that the end of the war was being portrayed purely in Russian terms, is that right? Not as an Allied victory. Why the change then?
Well, Russia was moving. Russia was by that moment was disappointed in democracy, liberalism. For we that's how they view it. We dissolved Soviet Union. We became friendly. We wanted to become part of the West, and what we met, our living standards are decreasing. They are enjoying the fruit of their victory in this Cold War, and we are just losers. So democracy is a bad thing and not reliable thing. And what we came across was like a new type of Western colonialism, which is hidden by under the guise of democracy. So we don't need West. We're turning away from the West. We are disappointed. That was the feeling.
And Abbas, I know you're not happy when you look back at having written that and been part of that.
Sorry, to justify myself, I would tell that I wrote it. I showed it at that time. I was a young man, so I showed it to my senior colleague. She checked it. She didn't tell anything, and then I crossed it out, like by myself. And the next day, she's coming up to me and telling, "Look, this phrase is so important that I'm taking it from you to insert it into his main speech." I was writing a speech of secondary importance. I'm telling her, "Okay, you can do it because I already crossed it out." She's telling, "Wow, how could you do it?" And they took it, and so it started living without me.
So you didn't want it to happen. You wanted to redact it, and it went out anyway.
The text is driving you. You are when you are writing, it's you are driven by the language, by the sense of history. So it came out, and then I gave a second thought, a third thought, and I crossed it out.
So were you aware at the time that there was this nationalist agenda developing?
I had not me alone. Some of us, we had the feeling that it looks like as if we are moving this way, but it seemed so far away, so we were pretty sure that of course we wouldn't go all this way. How could it be with all this history of Stalinism and repressions and millions of people ending up in prisons and killed after all these 70 years of totalitarian regime? How could we go back? It seemed like this. So yes, some of the steps, we needed a certain amount of consolidation. The political system was really deconsolidated, and it's not normal when the law is not being executed, when the presidential decree is signed and nobody is taking care. The system was not governable at all. So originally it seemed that what Putin was doing was quite logical, although yes, in some cases when he started fighting free speech, it was not like we already cringed. So it was a complicated process.
Yeah, indeed. And it is what forced you to actually leave your home country. I'm just interested to bring things up to date now, and to coincide with this Victory Day, Putin has declared this unilateral 3-day ceasefire. How much do you think that, you've spoken about how important the parade is to Putin. How much damage do you think these sustained drone attacks will have done to his personal pride in the days running up to this parade?
Oh, of course, it was a huge blow onto his, his message, his image, the way he's portraying the situation. The way he's presenting it is that Ukraine is on the brink of collapse. We are winning. Like it's just a matter of several months, and we are like completely victorious. This is the year of, again, he's going back into history. This year, the year of 80 years, big anniversary. Since that victory would be the year of our victory, our next glorious victory, which is the same, similar to that victory. So he is like standing on this, and all of a sudden, like Ukraine is showing who is the master. Like, of course, it's like a huge blow.
And how do you think President Xi will interpret it? He's guest of honor, isn't he, in Moscow? How will these repeated attacks influence his point of view and influence his opinion?
Well, definitely, the Chinese are the people that respect strength. So when they see that you are strong, you are winning, they respect your point of view. They respect you more. If they see that you are not winning, well, your arguments are not so convincing. But now, Putin has got some some cards to play. This is Trump. China, they see that Trump wants to take Putin, who is now Chinese junior partner, and to take to himself. And the Chinese are getting nervous. Otherwise, Xi would never have come to this parade. I'm pretty sure. He came because the situation changed because of Trump. He doesn't want a united front to Russia, Putin and Trump, Russia and America against China. So he came to discuss some issues, which what Putin wants to get from China, starting with the Korean soldiers and ending up selling gas, Russian gas, which Europe stopped buying, selling it to China, because before, for 3 years, the Chinese were refusing to buy it at the price Putin wanted to sell it. They wanted the price to be Russian domestic price, which is much lower. So now they're telling that Xi is ready to increase price. So they have a lot of things to discuss, and that's why I'm telling that in spite of all this military failures, Putin still has got some cards to play.
And the 80th anniversary of VE Day is a time for reflection as well as sometimes celebration, the end of the war in Europe. And also a time to think about the cost of freedom and the numbers of lives that have been lost. And when you bring that to today's current situation, I'm just interested to know, given the fact that the General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces have said that more than 960,000 Russian troops have been killed or wounded in the war since February 2022. Why is there not a greater pushback from the Russian public, and why does there seem a tolerance of this?
Well, you should understand, it's highly repressive society. You just cannot raise your voice. You would immediately end up in jail. And Russian jail is not the place where you want to end up. Navalny could tell you. So it's like, why didn't German argue with Hitler? Why didn't Italians revolt against Mussolini? Why didn't Russian revolt against Stalin? And civil society is defenseless against a highly totalitarian regime. But I'm telling you, like, the majority of Russians, they don't support this war. The real level of support, if there had been free elections now in Russia, as a person who was doing a lot of campaigns in Russia, I'm telling you, like, he wouldn't get more than 35% of votes. And out of this 35%, I would tell that at least 15 would be also, like, you could take them away from him with the right campaign. So, like, the core he can count on is no more than 20 now. But it's not visible from outside. Yes, because people, they're just surviving. What were they doing under Stalin's regime? People were just trying to avoid troubles. People are like this, like very few want to be heroes.
And Abbas, on a personal note, would you like to go back to Russia one day? And do you think you'll be able to do so in your lifetime?
Well, I'm much younger than Putin, and I'm absolutely sure that his regime would collapse. after he goes, maybe even before, because it's so unnatural. It makes, like, the normal regime should make people happy. It makes people unhappy. I mean, even the supporters, they are not happy. So it's so unnatural that it would definitely collapse. Maybe even peacefully, like it happened with Franco regime after he died in Spain, and just literally overnight, within the matter of 3 years, something like 4 years, Spain became democratic without much bloodshed, without actual bloodshed at all. It's moving now towards in this direction. Russia is moving in this direction, although it's not visible yet, because Putin is really discrediting all these things he put on his banner, all this strong hand, patriotism, like the outside world is enemy. All these things, they are being discredited right now, and sooner or later it'll be over. So definitely I will come back.
And just finally, Abbas, if you were able to write a speech now that could change the course of history, who would it be for, and what would you write?
Like radical revolution, so far it failed. Navalny was murdered, and a new leader hasn't yet arisen. So it's somebody who is now inside of Putin's entourage. It's like, till 1985, nobody could tell that Gorbachev would become the person who would dismantle the system. And when Franco was appointing his successors, he was absolutely sure that those were loyalists, loyal Frankists. They were. But then they changed everything. So it's somebody there inside the system, and this is the I will tell you, the majority of them, the majority of the Russian elites, they don't like what is happening. They don't like all this fascism. Like they like corruption. They like lavish lifestyle. They love the idea of being able to travel to London, to buy an apartment in London, to go to Nice, to buy a yacht, to travel between Corsica and whatever, Sardinia. So this is what they want, and Putin's regime is, I'm telling you, absolutely unnatural. So the change would most probably come from inside the regime.
Does that mean that you don't have somebody you'd like to write for?
No, why? With pleasure. I don't want just to tell the names, because it's easy to be offended, to be deceived, to be mistaken. Like in 1993, in 1983 or 1984, I didn't know that it would be Gorbachev in 1985, right? He was just another member of this party, and then all of a sudden he did what he did.
Well, listen, you'll have to come back and tell us when you can tell us who you'd like to write for, or if in fact you do one day. But in the meantime, it's been great talking to you, and stay safe. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio with me, Kate Chabot. If you'd like to be the first to get exclusive content, you can sign up for membership with the link below. You can also listen to Times Radio for the latest news, or read it on thetimes.com.